Alright, well, I'm here and I'm starting a live stream to talk about the wildfire situation we have. Trying to get things set up here. Usually I have Radar Omega going here, but a little thrown off. I need to make a new screen for this, but we'll figure this out as we go. Also need to get another camera up here, so give me a second, guys. There's also a big cold blast going on too to go with it. So also, at least with maybe a couple more people expect to come on, we'll at least have a minute to do that. And there's also a football game. Alright. Do hope everybody is doing well and they are safe. Okay. Okay, got the camera up. Alright, I guess we'll go ahead and run through this real quick and hope for the best. Model data should be in by now. Oops. Sorry about that. Last thing I need is to be demonetized simply because of one little clip. Anyway, though, let's go ahead and get to it here. I think I'm going to start with the wildfire threat first. There's a look that I saw on the 12Z run. It's probably transitioned over to 18 at this point. I'm wondering what that noise is in the background. Check, check. Okay, I figured out what it was. Alright, anyway, let's get this show on the road here. This is where the game gets interesting. So we're going to be averting our attention over to the southwest.
What is that?
Check, check. I don't know what this echo I keep getting is. Where is it coming from? I have no idea. Oops. Okay, that's not it. So confused. Alright. I think we got it now. Stuff acting weird first thing. Alright. Let's try this again. Gonna avert our attention out to the southwest here. There's a couple things I'm looking for. There's an area of high pressure that's gonna be right over here where we have the cursor. You can tell by these wind barbs. Right up in here is where our high pressure area is. As time goes on with this model run here, I do think we end up getting a bit of a gradient here because it does look like low pressure pops up here. It's a little bit of a trough. So with that, I think we might have another gradient, and unfortunately it looks like it goes straight through the mountains, especially as we get into tomorrow here. So very concerned once again about that wildfire threat ramping up. Relative humidities over towards this region are extremely low. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. So watch this move around, and this is going to pretty much be the dominant pattern for the next few days. So that wildfire threat has already been elevated exponentially here. There's already critical fire weather threats for the next 4 days here. Even today, there's a critical threat, but that's really going to be more so for the evening. As you can see on the live stream here, the sun has not set. The sun has not set just yet. So, that being said, unfortunately, especially as we go forward, I do anticipate maybe a day or two where we may even see an extreme threat. I hate to say that too, especially considering what this area has been through, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing. I'm just going to be completely frank here. So as time goes on, we're hoping eventually by the end of the week that we start to get some onshore flow, which will hopefully help increase some of those relative humidities and give these firefighters a break, because what we're hoping for is to increase those relative humidities, get those winds to stop funneling through the mountains here so we can actually have a chance to contain these jokers, because that's going to be a big problem for a while here. And obviously the further out we go in the range, the harder it's going to be to tell what happens next. But the trending that I'm seeing at the very least does look a little bit more positive in the medium range, but we'll have to just cross that bridge whenever we get there. But for right now, things, I'm not going to lie, not looking the best. So if we were to look at relative humidity here, we're going to go to the lower levels of the atmosphere. Again, big issue over here towards SoCal, where we're looking at about 16 to 20%. Hey, Fiona. Long time no see. But yeah, over towards SoCal, definitely looks like there is a big issue over here with relative humidity. We're less than 25%. It's been very dry over here over the last few months, really. Some places not even getting rain since August, unfortunately. So with that being said, between the winds and the already pre-existing dry conditions that we have here, unfortunately those wildfires that we already have are expected to grow once more, and potentially could even grow exponentially. So best hint of advice, if there's anyone watching here from Southern California, is to be prepared to evacuate at any time. Hopefully nothing heads your way, but if it does, be ready to act, and act quickly, because the thing with these wildfires is that with these environments, they're going to grow extremely fast. So quick reaction is going to be key. So one other thing that I'm going to look at here, and I don't typically show this much, so we're going to actually go ahead and take a look at where our pressure gradients are. Here's our trough right here. We also have some warm air and high pressure here. So what we're going to do is going to move this forward. Here's our high pressure, here's our low pressure. Then look how strong those winds are. I can actually read it just off these wind barbs alone here. We're getting towards about 50, 60, maybe even 70 plus miles an hour pretty easily here. It gives me a very uneasy feeling regarding what's next with this setup here, unfortunately. And this pattern, again, like I said before, it persists. So getting up to about 50 plus knots pretty easily there. I can't lie, I would tell them to stay on guard, because it does look like there's going to be a dominant pattern for a good while here in regards to the wildfire threat, at least until next weekend. So let's go ahead and look at the surface winds now, because I'm sure that's what everybody is worried about most on here, because of the fact that, well, I'm getting into the science part of it. Some of you don't want to hear the science, which honestly I can respect that. Okay, there's our low, there's our high. If there's any good thing here is I don't know if I would expect the winds to be quite as strong as this last event, but still these strong winds are going to play a factor. But here we go as we get into Monday here. I'm actually going to zoom in here if I can. I don't even know what's going on. on the screen, on the TV screen right now. So by the time we get into early tomorrow, right now it's only 21 knots, which is surprising. I expect these to be much stronger. As we get later into the week, I really expect these to ramp up. May not be able to see the wind as clearly over here too because of the mountains as well. This is looking about 10 meters above the ground. Obviously, since these areas are going to be a little bit higher than that in regards to their elevation, you may not get a proper read on these. So I may have to shift over to the 700 mil map or 700 millibar map. That's interesting. We're still getting up to about 30 knots here, but that's not quite as significant as what I was expecting. So that might be a small upweight. There we go. We're starting to get more onshore flow by this point, so that might be a good sign here. The wind's not being as high is actually a good thing, though. Do I think the crazy ones will be a normal thing from now on? Tough to say, but I want to say no right now. And the main reason why I would say that is actually because in that particular instance that the fires started, we saw them occur between a gradient between an area of high pressure and an area of low pressure. Those areas between the high and low pressure were very close together. So between the funneling of between the gradient, those winds became very strong. It's almost like a wind tunnel effect. Then you factor in that these winds are being funneled through the mountains. So it's like basically you're closing a corridor where the wind is already blowing very strongly, and you're almost kind of making it almost V-shaped like this. It's the same reason why people on the news often say if you're going to be taking cover in the event of a tornado, don't pull over if you're on the road near like an overpass because of that exact reason. It's a wind tunnel effect. It only gets stronger. So that being said, well, I probably explained that horribly, but in the event that hopefully that never happens, but in any case though, basically you have two different wind tunnel effects occurring at the same time here. So basically what would be a 30 knot wind could easily be a 50 knot, 60 knot wind because of the mountains alone. Hopefully that doesn't happen again, but well, at least it made sense to you, but I felt like I could explain it better. But that's pretty much the best overview that I can give right now for this region. If I look at any lower maps right now, I'm really not going to see much of anything. Nope. Thought I would try looking at the 850 millibar map here, but nope. No dice. So basically looking at surface maps to get a read on what the predicted winds could be is relatively useless. I was hoping I would be wrong, but looks like in this case I might be. But I don't think this is going to give us the best read either though, so curious. Let's try one more time just to be sure. Yeah, not really giving me the strongest winds here. About 15-20 miles an hour. Still problematic, but not nearly as bad, so maybe we won't see an extreme risk. But then again, I wasn't expecting that little gradient to occur either. Alright, so that being said here, we know the situation pretty much from this point here. I would show Twitter, but obviously I probably would get my stream taken down if I did. But I can read off what I've been seeing at the very least. So the last update that I got in regards to the wildfires before we move on to the Arctic outbreak is I think we were at about 11% containment for the, and I'm probably going to botch this name, not going to lie. But I think it's the Palisades. Yeah, Palisades, I think, or Palisades, I don't know. Yeah, it's only at 11%. That was the latest that I had seen there. Then Eaton, I think it was possibly a little bit higher, towards maybe 27%. Trying to pull it up now, but I haven't really gotten a good chance to read anything here. I was expecting an update to come in by now at this point. Fortunately, the death toll with this has also risen to 16 from what I had last seen, and I'm fearing that it might rise. Also, a lot of issues with burglary is occurring here. They don't expect this kind of stuff in these areas too, which is really unfortunate. Yeah, not much really coming in from the grapevine as of late. Well, anyway, though, since that's all I can talk about right now with this, so we're gonna go ahead and shift over to our cold side of things here. We're gonna shift over to the Arctic side. All right, let's go ahead, go back to the 500 millibar region, so that way we can get a look at this mega trough that's going to be coming in from Canada. It's going to freeze basically the eastern half of the U.S. here potentially at this point. It's really the best way to describe it, because some like ridiculous cold air is coming on the way. So this week, as far as winter weather is concerned, relatively mundane. Clipper systems are going to be coming in here and there. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's really not till we get towards the 18th and beyond where we start to see this. Now watch this really closely, because look at the cold air that's going to start getting dragged in along with this. Deep digging trough. This is going to bring the potential for more winter weather to come in, and then after that point, it's pretty much going to become an onslaught. So there's another trough coming in, and then more cold air to come in right behind that. And we're going to continue to deal with that all the way up till about the 25th, 26th. So I'm watching in particular over towards Mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, the Deep South, for the potential for at least maybe 1 or 2 chances for winter weather, for a winter storm possibly even. Very similar to what we had with this last setup here. Especially with this trough that I'm seeing towards the 22nd. This looks absolutely ridiculous. I don't even think Florida gets spared from this fully. They're going to see unseasonably cold temperatures here as well. And to put into perspective just how confident we are with this, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the CPC here. And the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook is crazy at this point. Put it in perspective for you, we're getting into the 80 to 90 percentile range for confidence in well below average temperatures here. And if we go to the 8 to 14 day outlook, pretty strong signal there, 60 to 70 pretty easily, getting into 70 to 80. So go ahead and take that into a wide view here. So it looks like, regardless of where you are, if you're anywhere east of the Rockies, expect below average temperatures, with the most significant, of course, being over towards the Deep South, Mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, maybe even the Northeast too. We'll get into the values of that a little bit later. Another thing that I'm paying close attention to is the fact that on both outlooks, between the 18th and the 22nd, above average precip is possible as well. Same thing with 8 to 14 day outlook. Very similar signal. So I'm keeping an extremely close eye on that. I do think winter weather is going to come into play from the looks of it. Because if you were to put two and two together, cold air already looks like it's going to be in place. Where that battle line ends up is going to be the key question. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at that the temperature map next, to get into details with that. So, let's go ahead and roll forward. Hey, what's up, Emmanuel? I'm going to go ahead and roll forward. And you might want to pay attention to this because I just mentioned your area too, by the way. So perfect timing that you came in. Like I said, this week is going to be relatively mundane when it comes to winter weather. You're going to have these little clipper systems. Will give you a quick burst of snow. Could maybe get up to about an inch with this at the most. But nothing to be very concerned about. High pressure is going to also dominate too, so it's going to keep the moisture down over towards these regions. As we go further along, as we get towards the end of the week, we're looking pretty nice. We actually start to warm up a bit. We have a little bit of ridging occurring, and as a result, rain showers are going to be dominant and maybe a small chance of severe weather as well over towards the Gulf Coast in particular. I think chances are going to be pretty low. You might see a marginal risk. Small chance this goes up to slight, but not expecting a lot out of that. But towards the northeast where the cold air is in play, might get a little burst of snow. This little system behind that follows up behind this I'm kind of interested in as well. So with that being said, maybe over towards the interior northeast, snow is possible. But I wouldn't expect a whole lot out of that until we get towards the back end here, where that low begins to deepen. Maybe New York City, Long Island area might have a shot at some snow here. You guys have been getting stiff over there. Those guys have been getting pretty much stiff by these wintry systems here. That being said, though, keep this ball rolling here. And then this is a feature that you want to pay attention to right here if you're in the deep south. It seems very reminiscent to the last one here. Almost look like a carbon copy here as to what we had before. Timing's a little bit off here for this to occur, however, mainly because the low pressure forms very late. Seems like there's still a little bit of southeast ridge in effect as well to go along with this. Yeah, Maine has been getting pretty much stiffed as well. There's going to be some opportunities for you guys to get snow, but this particular instance, I think it's going to stay offshore. But if you're over towards the deep south, this could be an interesting situation. However, like I said before, low pressure kind of forms up late, very weak low pressure according to the GFS. And this really kind of favors more so the coastline of North Carolina here, maybe the coastal northeast a bit more. If this were to track a little bit closer inland, though, that could be a big time nor'easter. This is actually one of the more tame model runs here. If I show you what the 12Z model run was showing from the Euro, your jaw might drop here. I'm just going to let you know now. Everywhere else, though, it's pretty much been the typical clipper system. A little bit of activity just off the mountains here. Sometimes it'll flow in from Canada as well, from Alberta. So you may get your occasional snowstorm or snow showers over towards the northeast in the Ohio Valley, but outside of that, staying relatively tame for right now. As we go further along, we start to see much more ridging to close out the month possibly. And this, of course, is going to allot for colder rain, maybe some snow and ice here and there. But also, I'm kind of leery of what's to be expected with this as we go further along, because I'm anticipating February could be a more active month for maybe severe weather, seeing with this potential ridging to go along with it. Temperatures are still going to be way too cold for severe weather, so I wouldn't expect much, but keeping a close eye on it. Now, let's go to the Euro. And this is where you might want to brace yourself here, especially looking at this 12Z run. The 18Z doesn't go out quite as far, so we're switching. So we're actually going back here. The first 144 hours, pretty much irrelevant. It's not even a week. Not going to be too concerned with that. We already know what to expect for the most part. Not a whole lot. As you can see, things are relatively tame. cold rain really is more possible than anything else. But you start to get a more notable run to pop up here. And if you're still there, this actually puts you in play for a little bit of wintry precip here as we get towards the evening of the 19th into the morning of the 20th here. It's not a long-lasting event, but you still could get some pretty significant snow here. But look at the difference when we get towards 20th into the 21st here. Another big wintry setup over towards Texas, Louisiana once again. And then as we go further here, look how far this rain snow line is. That is crazy. That's Houston that could be dealing with ice here based off of this run. Keep in mind, 210 hours out. Not a lot of reason for me to have a lot of optimism in that. However, the fact that we're seeing this is pretty crazy at this point. And then watch how far this rain snow line hangs around here. The Euro is definitely much colder of the two models here. Now, do I think this is going to happen? Leaning a little bit towards no, but you never know. The fact that we're seeing this outcome, and look at how intense and just how sharp this ice line is, this rain snow line is. That is something that I'm very concerned about if this outcome comes into play. The key word to this is if, but this will be a big time snowstorm for the deep south. This would stiff the Ohio Valley completely. Ohio Valley would be spared by high pressure, but you're not gonna be spared by is cold. So in either case, it's gonna get ridiculously cold. And we're gonna take a look at both models, of course, to show you just how cold it could be. But this right here is crazy. This has been making its ends on social media as well. So I'm not surprised that people are talking about it, but keep in mind, as far out as we are, this is not set in stone. So do not go out and clean your stores out. Do not panic, because 228 hours out is a lot of time. It's over a week. Things can change within 6 hours. That's when the next model run comes in. So this could be completely gone in the next run. So there's your disclaimer there. You didn't hear from me that this was going to happen, because this isn't guaranteed. Watch how this continues to roll forward here. And this even includes the mid-Atlantic here, but northeast, however, in this outcome doesn't really get much anything. However, looks like another system comes into play, but that rain snow line ends up pushing a little further north. Then that brings the northeast into play at the very end of this model run. Again, as I've said before, the further out we go in the range, less confidence I have. But the Euro is showing some crazy stuff here. In either case, though, let's go ahead and look at these temperature maps, because one thing I'm very confident in, regardless, and I mean regardless of whether we have snow or not, is going to be the brutal cold that's expected here. Now, the Euro is the most extreme of the two models, so in a way this could be unwrapping your Christmas presents, or unwrapping, or discovering your lump of coal here, if you will. I know we're past Christmas, but I figured I'd have to make the reference. I know it wasn't funny. I'm sorry. But in any case, though, this is, of course, one of the more tame weeks. We fast forward closer towards the 20th, and here we go. Get to the 19th, -7 already. By the time we're looking at far South Dakota here. Yeah, cold without snow definitely sucks. I would definitely prefer the snow. But look at this right here. Getting to -26 over towards Wyoming. Potentially up to -30, or potentially as far down as -30 over here towards North Dakota. And then these negative temperatures, Manuel, if you're in your area here, if you're still in the chat here, ouch. It's a -15 possibly for Indy. Even my area doesn't get spared by the Euro at all. We're getting down to 18, 14. Whoa, what? Okay, now this is new. 0? 2? I I don't want to see that. Can we please not do that? Yikes. Another area that's really going to bite it, apparently, according to the Euro here, is definitely the northeast here. Lake effect snow might be a big issue as well, depending on that wind flow here. But it definitely looks like those air temperatures are going to be much colder than those lake surface temperatures. So I think early on we could deal with that, but I also think in time the lakes will freeze, and that will lower the lake effect potential here. There is a chance the lakes already might be frozen too, so that could also lower the potential. Oh yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine then. But even so, I don't know if everybody's going to be prepared the same as you, man. I'm definitely not. I could probably handle as far down as maybe, sheesh, maybe 10 degrees, but I'm not suited to go anywhere below that. I usually work outside. Ooh, look at that, -20. There's even below zeros on the west side of Atlanta. That's crazy. I have a buddy in East Kentucky over here. Might be freezing his butt off here on the 23rd based off of this look. Thankfully, though, after this, there is an end in sight. We start to warm back up ever so slightly. It takes a little bit, but towards the end of the model run here, we get at least back into the 20s. Yeah, I know. I'm very concerned about that, especially considering towards my area, the road conditions are not great as they are. A lot of potholes already, so seeing that is definitely alarming. Yeah, they aren't ready, man. They are not ready at all. You kind of think more people would be watching this thinking, oh crap, I've seen some of the stuff on social media here. Definitely hit that share button, guys, because people need to be on top of this, because I'm telling you, they don't want any part of this. So, interesting thing, getting over to the GFS, slightly different scenario, but very similar outcome, unfortunately. So, of course, early in the week, not too bad. End of the week, pretty much the same thing. We actually warm up a little bit. Have our chance of showers and storms. You can see our frontal boundary pretty clearly. After that, here we go again. GFS is showing a very similar look. Now the thing is, GFS is slightly warmer. And I mean only slightly warmer. By about maybe 10 degrees. But in this case, cold is cold either way. Maybe not as cold, but still pretty freaking cold. For all is said and done, even Florida looks like they have mornings where they're below freezing here. But I'm interested to see how this plays out here, because this is exactly how we looked right before this last winter storm in either case here. And it also looks like right before the end of this model run here, or right at the end of this model run here, another front comes through, and then after that might be at least one more cold blast to end out the month. So very curious to see what might be ahead for us to end out the month of January. This has been a super cold month. I'm hoping that at least February will be a little bit warmer. But I also have my concerns with that, as I mentioned before. So we've gone over the precip outlooks. Let's go ahead and look at the departures here. This is where things kind of get a little scary, so don't be alarmed. But in either case here, GFS and Euro are going to show some pretty crazy outcomes. Euro, of course, is going to be the worst of the two, as we mentioned before. Even through this week, though, let me make one thing clear. It's still going to be pretty chilly. Still going to be below average for most of the lower 48. Far northeast, the only area that we're either close or just a little bit above average along with the Midwest. Alright, Fiona, see you next time. So, of course, we get towards the 20th. Just after our little bit of a break here, a little warming trend. Here we go. Some brutal cold air over here towards the North Dakota and Montana line. 45 degrees below average. Crazy number here. Maybe even reaching all the way to 50 here in places. Yep, there's 51 right there towards Wyoming. And we're going to watch that cold air march to the south here. Record cold numbers here. 43 below average over here toward just outside of Cleveland here. Indy at about 39 below average. Fortunately with the GFS, we see this kind of break down a little bit. So we're a little closer to average. We're kind of in the middle here. And even have a warming trend to close out most of the model run, where we could even be about 20 degrees above average. So it's a great way to have your immune system get wrecked, so you have to be paying attention to that as well. We go to the Euro, though. Oh, boy. This isn't going to be fun. So pretty much a similar deal here, but here we go. Man. 45, 47, there's 50 again. But of course this is going to linger. Look at that. That's crazy. Even my area doesn't get spared either. 40 degrees below average. 40 degrees below average towards Louisiana. The Euro is sparing absolutely no one. Like I said, not a guarantee that this happens. But can we not have this outcome? Can we have something a little bit better? All jokes aside here. Either way, it looks like the cold air is coming. It's pretty much a shoo-in at this point, so just make sure you're doing what you can to keep yourself warm, keep yourself healthy. As far as the winter weather, definitely not a shoo-in either. So pay extra close attention. Make sure you stay tuned to future videos. In any case, though, that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Appreciate all of you that have tuned in. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.